All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Thursday. Um, as you likely know, that's the day before Friday. But we'll have a quiz this Friday. We'll have a quiz tomorrow, so be ready for that. Everything is posted on Microsoft Teams and the student portal, so good luck with that. We'll do the online students first from 8 to 9, and then in-class students will be here to write at 10. So at least you get to, no, not 10, at 9, sorry. So you get to sleep in maybe just a little bit. Let's see who's here. So Simrat is here, good morning. And Rayan is here, good morning. And Abby's here, good morning, Abby. Shania is here, hello Shania. Nicole is here, good morning Mulder. Adel is here, good morning to you, and Parsa's here as well, good morning. Okay. Let's jump back into kind of where we were yesterday. So yesterday I think we did a pretty good job with this article, to be honest. There were two arguments in it, but it wasn't really, I think you'll probably agree, it wasn't written in a way that you could easily determine, they didn't lay out the arguments. It was kind of scattered throughout the article, and you had to sort of pull the pieces out and put them together. And I think we kind of did do that. So I was pretty satisfied with where we kind of landed on that. We said that there were two arguments here. One, Jordan Peterson arguing that he shouldn't have to use gender-neutral pronouns, or at least the university shouldn't be asking him to, and he supported that conclusion with premises about being compelled to use this language leads to totalitarianism, and ideological language empowers power-mad people, and maybe it was an infringement on his academic freedom, and maybe it was an infringement on his right to free speech. But we kind of evaluated that argument, and we found, well, these are all logical support, but are they true? And I think we agreed that the last two premises are not true, right? And the first two premises are they're pretty extreme sounding, right? And again, to read them, they're not really intuitively true. I don't know how using gender pronouns leads to totalitarianism. You'll have to explain that to me. And so, maybe those things are true, but they seem like a big exaggeration. They seem like a big stretch. And so I'm not sure about this one, right? And we said that the university and students and trans advocacy groups, they had a different argument, saying that using this language respects people's right not to be discriminated against. It does not infringe on Jordan Peterson's academic freedom nor his right to free speech. And it creates a safe space, right? It creates a place of inclusion for students who are coming to the university to study and to learn, right? And all of those, I think we agreed, are true, and they're reasons why we might want to use pronouns like this. And so I think it was kind of interesting to note that someone who is credible on paper, so if you just look Jordan Peterson up, you would see he's a tenured professor of psychology at the University of Toronto, and that's pretty prestigious, and we should probably believe him, but it doesn't mean that academics always have good arguments. And so it's good to find people who you can trust and you can believe, but also it's worthwhile paying attention to what people actually say, because sometimes people who should know better, for whatever reason, actually seem not to. And so here we have a good example of someone who is credible and authoritative, at least in the field of psychology, but I feel offering a pretty poor argument in this situation. Maybe I'll just ask you the last one here before we move on. How do we decide how we feel about this issue? So we have two kind of logical arguments, but what are your feelings on this issue, on pronoun use? We should use them, you say? Why is that?
Gives like a sense of safety and protection to prioritize group, but at the same time, I feel like people shouldn't get too upset, like people accidentally misuse, like misidentify them.
Sure. Yeah, there's kind of two sides, right? Is that it does why do you think it creates safety? Like how do you think that happens?
You're agreeing with who they think they are, so it gives them a sense of inclusion, I suppose.
Yeah, that it's important, right? It's very easy to make people feel included or excluded, right? And as it turns out, us humans are very sensitive to that because again, we're social creatures, right? We live together with other people, we depend on other people for survival, and that's kind of how we encourage cooperation, right? We kind of establish group norms and then we try to get people to follow them. And when people don't follow group norms, we kind of socially exclude them, right? We kind of push them out of the circle a little bit until they start to follow the rules, and then we kind of pull them back in again. And so humans are kind of very sensitive to whether they're kind of inside or outside the group, right? We have a very sensitive temperature, measuring device. And so again, a very simple thing as just using pronouns that people ask you to use can actually create a sense of safety. And it seems like it wouldn't, right? It seems like it's not a big deal, right? But again, humans are very sensitive to this, and so it does actually work. It does create that acceptance and that safety. But Mulder, you pointed out, yeah, people are gonna make mistakes, right? Especially because this sort of gender issue is not, at least in Western culture anyway, it's not really resolved, right? We started out a few decades ago with men and women, and that's it. And now we're kind of not sure what we have, right? We have men, we have women, we have people who are gender fluid, who are gender non-binary, who are transgender, trans men or trans women. And so there's a lot of people who I think we're not really sure how to categorize them or where to place them. And so people are still getting used to this, people are still understanding it, and people are going to make mistakes, right? And that's fine, right? As long as you're making an honest effort, it's okay to make a mistake, right? But I would ask you the question, is it okay to simply say no for all of the reasons that Jordan Peterson provided? Maybe the other thing I'll just point out here about this decision is that when we're thinking about this, especially when we're thinking about, because there were almost like kind of a collision of rights here, right? So the question was, did Jordan Peterson have the right to free speech, or do gender non-binary and transgender people, do they have the right not to be discriminated against, right? And in reality, both are true, right? Both have their rights, but sometimes those rights seem to come into conflict, and whose rights should be protected? Yeah, so minoritized groups need extra protection in society, right? Because being in the minoritized group means that they don't have institutional power, they don't have social power, and so they need extra protection, right? And so here, yeah, transgender people, gender non-binary people, they are in a minoritized group, right? They're a small minority of a minoritized group, and so yeah, they need extra protection, they need extra consideration. And so, if Jordan feels his right to free speech is being compromised here, well, the more important thing is that we protect these vulnerable people, right? And in fact, his right to free speech is not being compromised. But sometimes you have to choose, right? And sometimes that choice will go all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada, and it'll come down to the Supreme Court to determine whose rights kind of need to be respected and whose rights are kind of less important. Again, I have a better example of that, but we'll talk about it in the religious oppression section. Okay, so anything else we want to say about Jordan Peterson, or pronouns, or arguments, or anything? No? Don't want to say any of that? Okay. So, at the very beginning of this unit, at the beginning of sexism, I said that we were going to talk about this form of oppression, and we were going to look at how our ideas and views and opinions are shaped by popular culture, social messaging and popular culture. And so, let's start with advertising, okay? So I have some statistics here, and some of them I feel kind of intuitively are correct. So the not that means anything, but some kids spend about 6 hours a day or 180 days per year in school, but they may interact with media in some cases up to 11 hours a day, right? And so media can be music, it can be YouTube videos, TikTok videos, Twitter, Instagram, television, if anyone still watches like regular television, Netflix, movies, all that stuff. All that is media. Also reading blog posts, reading newspapers. I know nobody reads newspapers. You should, but all of that stuff is media, is popular media. And kids are exposed to lots of it every day, right? More so than school, more so than family life. They are being socialized by media because it is literally everywhere, right? Especially now because we carry it on our phones, right? So media comes with us wherever we go, right? Here I have a statistic that says 88% of American teens have mobile phones. I think that percentage is low. I think the percentage is probably 104% at this point. And yeah, 56% of teens go online several times a day. At this point, we're all online all the time, right? We're always getting messages, we're getting notifications, we're all plugged into the system all the time, right? So a question, of course, is: Are you affected by advertising? Do you think? And specifically, what kind of advertising? What kind of advertising works for you? Like it gets you to buy something, or at least gets you to want to buy something.
It depends on the problem, what the person needs. Like some people love food a lot, so they get attracted to the advertisement of food.
Yeah, I do. Doesn't that food look good? I have Instagram posts. Instagram kills me because of the algorithm. Like I look at one fancy dessert post, and then the next thing I know, it's just like dessert after dessert, and I'm like, Instagram, you're killing me here. Like I'm trying to eat healthy, and it's just like cakes and cookies and brownies and one post after another, right? But yeah, that's a very powerful form of advertising. A, food, because it taps into a need that we all have to eat. But secondly, Instagram is using an algorithm, right? It's learning what you want to see, and it's showing you more of it, right? So that's even more effective, because in the past, people would make commercials and just hope their audience saw the commercials, right? But now, Instagram is showing you exactly what you want to see, right? You look at a post, suddenly you get more of them. Does anyone's phone listen to them? Yeah, like have you ever found yourself like talking about something with friends, then the next thing you know, it starts showing up in your like YouTube feed or Instagram feed or something? Creepy, right? And I don't even have Siri on. Like Siri is off, but somehow my phone is still listening to me. Not cool. But again, advertising is everywhere, right? What other kind of ads work for you, make you want stuff? Food's a really good one. Especially pizza. When you see like a pizza commercial and they're like, they're taking the slice of pizza out and the cheese is all stretchy. Man, that's good. Is there any greater food than pizza? I ask you. There is?
It depends on the type of food.
I know. It always depends. Everything always depends on everything. But still, pizza is incredible, I think. Pasta's better? Too many carbs. Okay, let's see. So, I think that regardless of how we answered this question, are we affected? The odds are probably yes. And the reason why is that advertising is very carefully crafted, right? The people who work in advertising are not dummies. They know all about human psychology and sociology. They know what motivates humans. They know what humans like and don't like. They know how to push your buttons, right? They know how to show you things that, either keep you watching or motivate you to buy a product, right? And so they're very good at doing this, right? They're very good at understanding human behavior and human psychology. And they spend a lot of money to do so, right? But what we'll want to pay attention to when we're talking about advertising is how sexist messages, how messages about gender roles and about what men are like and what women are like, how they're kind of perpetuated within this medium, okay? So let's go here, for example. Now this isn't an ad, but this could be a page from a toy website, or once upon a time you used to have a catalog. They would send a book to your house, but that doesn't happen anymore. And here we have some children's toys. Now, whose toys are these? Not like the name of the kid, but what? Yeah, these are toys that are for boys. Now, of course, girls can play with them too, but these are toys that are made for boys, right? And so we'll kind of, if we look at these toys that are pretty typical of toys for boys, what kind of messages and values do you think are sort of part of these toys? What kind of lessons are kids learning by playing with them?
Toys that are violent.
Okay, well,
Gone.
there's an element of violence. What makes you say that?
There's police car, Iron Man, gone, and
Yeah, so there's this military vehicle of guys with guns. I think that guy's got like a bazooka or a rocket launcher on his shoulder there. There's some sort of military group here. There are superheroes, which of course they're cool, but they do use violence to achieve their means, right? We have actual guns there, although they look kind of futuristic, but they're actually, so we have a pretty significant showing of weapons here, right? And again, if you go to the toy aisle, wherever you go, and you go to the boys' toys, you'll find guns and swords and bows and arrows and lightsabers and all kinds of weaponry, right? You'll find weaponry. What else do you see here in terms of messaging or beliefs or values? Actually, looking at these, I just thought of another one that might be pretty good, but what's that? Oh, okay. So this is maybe suggesting to boys what kind of future careers or occupations they might want to aspire to, right? So we have police there. We have some construction equipment. We have the military. We have superhero. I think probably many of us have wanted that job at one time or another. So we have some. What's kind of a common thread or common theme to these occupations?
Forestry,
What's that?
your forestry.
Okay, so they all have an element of strength or power as part of them. That's good. What else? What else do these occupations kind of have in common? Most of them are. Okay, so they're occupations that are they're usually filled by men. Good morning. Usually filled by men. Okay, they're stereotypically male occupations. Okay, what else? What other messages are there here about the toys or about the occupations thing? Abby says here, most of them require a tough mindset. Would you agree with that? Yeah, I think that's probably true, right? Some sort of like determination or mental toughness that comes in. Being in the military can be a stressful thing, right? If you're out in Afghanistan or whatever, trying to keep yourself alive, then you got to be pretty tough. If you're a police officer, you've got to be pretty tough. If you're working on a construction site all day, you got to be pretty tough there too. So there's a physical toughness, but also a mental toughness, I think, that goes along with some of these. So I think that's good. What else? What else is happening either with the occupations or with the toys? What kind of messages or values or beliefs are kind of coming through? Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of physicality to using these toys, right? So the police car you kind of like sit on top of, right? It's for a younger child, and the kid kind of moves himself along with his feet, right? So there's a physicality to that. Good morning. There's a physicality to construction, right? To building. You know, you bang the superheroes together to fight, make them fight. All of these have an element of physicality. What else do you think? What about the guns? What about them? Okay. Well, what did we say about the guns? Yeah, they're tools of violence, right? Weapons. You know, if you look at a handgun, for instance, a handgun really has no other purpose than to hurt or kill human beings, right? That's exactly what that technology exists for. It has no other purpose. You can always stab someone to death with a knife, right? But of course, you know, the knife has other useful functions. But handguns don't have that. Handguns have one job, right? They kill other people. And so it is kind of interesting that this is the sort of toy that we provide to 6 and 7-year-olds, right? And I know I'm sounding a little bit judgy there because I, of course, had toy guns when I was a kid too, but just making a suggestion. Yeah, there's a lot of activity here, and maybe the fancy word I'll sort of pin to what you said, Mulder. The fancy word I'll use is agency. Okay, so there's agency is kind of like the ability to make something happen in the world. If you have agency, you can make things happen. You can do something. You have the ability to do something. And all of these toys, I think, communicate a sense of agency, right? Superheroes can do things, right? To the point where they can do things that none of us can, right? The police can do things. They have power to arrest people and maybe shoot people, which is a whole other thing, but they have the ability to do those things. People who build and work on construction sites have the ability to physically change the world, right? They can bulldoze a house and build a brand new building on top of it, right? They have agency to do that. The other thing I was going to, I don't know if this holds up. Does this hold up? No, I'm not going to say it. I had an idea, but I don't think it works. Okay, let's change it up. So, whose toys are these? Yeah, we very clearly recognize these as girls' toys, and so I will ask you the same question: what kind of messages or beliefs or values or ideals are being transmitted through toys like these? What's that? So stereotypical. There's a lot of pink, right? Everything is pink. Okay, what else?
There's nothing about violence.
There's no evidence of violence here, which I would suggest is a good thing, but you're very right. There's no violence. Okay, so there's kind of a very limited range of occupations or activities here, right? There's looking pretty, right? So this little girl's got a little makeup table for herself, and Barbie is really all about looking pretty, right? There's cooking, right? So there's a little ice cream stand and a little miniature kitchen. I think she's got more things in her kitchen than I do. No, I'm just kidding. And then there's taking care of babies, right? So we basically have only three jobs for women, right? Cooking, looking after babies, and looking pretty. Interesting. What else might little girls learn from these toys without really meaning to learn? That's right.
I had all these toys, so I needed a and I liked it.
No, it's okay. It's okay because I had some of these toys and I was reminiscing about them as well. So, but I'm asking you to, you can, think about them with fond nostalgia if you like. But also, I'm asking you to look critically at them and see what kind of lessons are they teaching.
Like the girls are only using for home sharing and cooking and like home stuff and not for fighting.
Yeah, so that's worth pointing out too. So all of these toys are kind of toys that you play with. They're toys that belong in the outside world, right? Things like guns or weapons or trucks or policing or building or the military or defeating Thanos. All those things happen outside the home, right? Whereas all of these things happen inside the home. None of these are necessarily outside of the domestic sphere. Maybe the ice cream cart, maybe if you want to. It's a bit of a stretch, but most of these are domestic items, right? They occur in the home. What else might be going on here? Oh, right. So there's a stereotype that girls are supposed to like to shop, right? And shop till they drop, sort of thing. Okay. Did you?
There's a stereotype where girls care a lot more about physical appearance than boys, who are more outgoing and like to host activities.
Excellent. So Scotty says, yeah, there's kind of a couple of stereotypes here. There's the stereotype that boys are kind of more outgoing and more kind of rough and tumble kind of thing, and girls are more focused on their appearance, which I would say those are both accurate. Those stereotypes do exist for sure, and there may be some truth to them. But the question I'm asking, and I'm not leading you to an answer here, but the question I might ask you is is that a natural difference between the two, or are we training them to do that? Because I think these toys reflect that, right? That boys are outside running around, banging their toys together, and girls here, there's a lot of focus on appearance, right? Whether it's makeup, whether it's Barbie. The only reason to buy more than one Barbie is looks and fashion, right? All Barbies are basically the same, they just have different outfits, right? There's a heavy emphasis on appearance and on fashion, and so again, we're starting to socialize these two genders at a very early age. How the little baby here, the little doll in the corner, how old of a child do you think that toy is made for? Yeah, maybe. Probably a little younger, I think, than 6 or 7. I'm thinking, yeah. Nasser had one when she was 4, so yeah, I'm thinking maybe 3, 4, 5. They might play with it when they're below 3, but I don't think they would have a grasp of quite what it was. But certainly, yeah. But isn't that interesting that we are teaching little girls to take care of babies when they basically are babies, right? When you're 4, you are still a baby, in a way. And so almost from the point that women are conscious of what's going on, right? Maybe like 3 or 4 years old. As soon as they can kind of figure out what the hell, who they are and what they are in the world, they're being given babies to care for, even though they're clearly not old enough, right? And, on the other hand, as soon as boys are old enough to know what's what, they're being given police cars and guns and military trucks and vehicles, right? So again, I'm not necessarily suggesting any right or wrong here, but I'm just asking you to kind of consider what kind of messages are being transmitted and are being transmitted from really the very earliest age, right? As soon as, I don't know what happens in your home countries, but often what happens here, or what used to happen here, is babies were born, and as soon as you had a girl or a boy, you started dressing them in pink or blue, right? Very quickly. And so this child is, barely born, they're this big, and we're already, we're imposing gender norms on them, right? We're dressing them in boy clothes, we're giving them boy toys or girl toys. And again, I'm not necessarily arguing for that being wrong. I'm just asking us to think critically about what those messages are, because again, kids are like sponges, right? They will suck up anything that's around them and learn it. And so these kids are going to learn lessons from these toys one way or the other. So the question is, what are they learning, right? What are they getting from it? How about this? Is this women's food or men's food? Women's food? I know it's normal food for everybody. I'm asking you to kind of use your stereotypical ideas here. Let's start with the salad, right? So who stereotypically eats salads, men or women? What's that? Both men. Yeah, I know, yeah, right? So salads are kind of a diet food, right? And who's constantly concerned about their weight? Women, right? And so often when you see salads or when salads are marketed, they are within the realm of women. What about yogurt?
Men.
Really?
Men.
I don't know. This might be a bit of a cultural thing. Yogurt was seen as kind of a super healthy thing a few decades ago because it was it wasn't thought to be. It was low in fat. There was a big low fat craze going on. And so most of the time if you see television commercials for yogurt, you will see women, because yogurt is still thought of as kind of a healthy food, maybe a weight loss food, and so often you'll see women associated with it. What about What's that?
Question. Is
Yeah.
it really healthy?
It depends. Depends.
It's the fresh one, I think, which is healthy. The homemade.
Yeah, the homemade stuff or the fresh stuff or the Greek yogurt is good. A lot of yogurt, you'll see that they dump a bunch of sugar in it to make it taste better, and so then it's not that great in my view. Yogurt's okay, but often, when they put like strawberries and peaches and sugar, and then it's like you may as well just have ice cream almost. Which is far more enjoyable than yogurt, I think. What about the drinks? Men drinks or women drinks? That looks like a cocktail? What are we looking at there?
Cucumber
Mm-mm. I think we're looking at apple teenies.
Apple juice.
Nope, not apple juice. So apple, probably vodka, probably some apple liqueur, and then a slice of an apple on the side of the martini glass. Yeah, probably a little fancy for men, right? What about chocolate cake? That is for everybody. But who stereotypically likes chocolate, men or women?
Men.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Men and women.
We have some different stereotypes floating around here. In the West, it's definitely women. Although, men, I love chocolate too. That cake looks like
Yeah.
so good. Yeah.
Everyone.
Very true. What about these foods? Just woo. The first and the fourth one. Okay. So how these are men's foods, maybe. How so?
I'll start with this drink.
Start with the beer.
Yes.
Is beer a man drink?
Probably.
Co-
But women can also drink that.
I know anybody can eat any of these foods, but we're just thinking about.
I think it's the color scheme that tells us what food.
Ooh.
It's also the color, the bubble on it.
Yeah, it's a little. So we have a cold beer here, right? A nice ice cold beer. It's frothing over the top, which beer commercials like to show you, although it's kind of messy in real life. Mulder said the color palette's different here too, right? Here we have lots of like darker black and brown and sort of orangey color. Here we have lots of white and lightness and green, right?
Except for the chocolate.
Except for the chocolate. But the cake's on a white plate. But still, yeah, very different color palette even, right? So this sort of bright, light freshness. And then here we have this kind of dark, grilled, meaty sort of thing going on, right? We have the beer. If you've ever seen beer commercials, you'll know that beer commercials are not for women. They're for men. So they're about a bunch of guys having a beer, or they're about a super attractive woman drinking a beer, right? What else do we have here? Bacon.
Most of the women are vegetarian.
Most women are vegetarian. Well, maybe, but who's stereotypically meat eaters? Men. Who's in charge of the grill? Who's in charge of grilling up the meat? Yeah, that seems to be a cultural universal. I don't know how that is, but yeah, men seem to be in charge of grilling meat. What do we have here at the drinks in the bottom corner? Yeah, we have scotch or we have whiskey, right? Which is a very strong, bold alcohol, right? Not like these apple teenies, which are very fruity and sweet and fun. These whiskeys are very, very strong, right? So I realize that, yes, anyone can eat any of these foods, and yes, we probably, many of us would just eat to our taste. But what I'm saying here is that advertising is gendered, right? And so oftentimes when we see a product advertised, marketers will advertise it to the stereotypical group, right? So if you want to sell beer, like if I'm a advertising person and I work for, I don't know, Budweiser or something, if I'm going to make a commercial, I'm going to make a commercial that men like, because I know that men are the ones who buy beer. So I'm not going to make a commercial for women. I'm going to make a commercial for men. So it's going to be men at the, at the football game, or, hanging out in their backyard, or it'll have a really attractive woman in a bar drinking a beer or something like that, because I want men to watch this ad, right? Similarly, if I'm selling yogurt, for instance, I know that most yogurt is probably purchased by and consumed by women. Men eat it too, I know, but I'm going to make a commercial that is focused on women, and I'm going to show women things that they want to see, right? And often, if you look at these commercials, you'll see it's a woman who's attractive and healthy, and she's living in a nice house, and she's eating her yogurt and feeling good about her life, and those are all things that women might want, right? And so the advertiser will show them those things. If I'm trying to sell bacon, or if I'm trying to sell beer, I'm going to try and show men things that they might want, right? They might want to be out having a good time with their buddies, or golfing, or at the lake, or checking out this super hot girl in a bar, or whatever men might want to do, right? I'm going to try and show them those things. So advertising becomes gendered, right? Because some products are gendered, and then the advertiser shows you more things, that they show you more stereotypical ideas in order to appeal to that audience, right? So does that make a little bit of sense? Let me just see what my next slide is here. Whoops. Oh, right. Let's go to the sort of cosmetics and bath and beauty section of the grocery store. So here we have a couple of shower products that you might actually have in your shower or bathroom. Which one belongs to women? The pink one, right? So here we have the Head and Shoulders, smooth and silky. And we have, what's this little pink thing called? It's not quite a sponge. What?
I've seen them before, they're so soft.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's a sponge. This is a loofah, and so it's kind of, it's made of plastic, and it's, if you rub it on yourself, it's a little bit rough, so it helps you kind of clean your skin. Yeah, you've probably seen them hanging in the aisles at the drugstore or whatever.
It's a little bit squishy like a sponge.
A little squishy, yeah. Doesn't really hold any water, but it's, yeah. So, what kind of evidence, how do we know that these products are for women? The pink thing is a dead giveaway. What else?
Softness.
Soft.
Ah, right. Men don't want to be soft and silky, do they?
Wait. Is this shampoo or what?
The one on the, I think the Head and Shoulders is shampoo, I think. The one on the oh yeah, they're both shampoos, sorry. Yeah, so men don't want to be smooth and silky, right? They want to be tough and masculine, right? Do men want to smell like a flowery meadow? No, right? We talked about this before. Men want to smell
Ocean.
manly, right? Like the ocean, or wood, or leather, or some sort of manly scent, right? They don't want to smell like flowers. So these items are very clearly marketed and designed for women, right? The color scheme, the flower, the scent, the name, the smooth and silky, this pink fluffy loofah thing, although I use one too. It looks exactly like that. It doesn't matter. But I just grab whichever one is nearest. So sometimes they're pink, sometimes they're orange, sometimes they're purple, sometimes they're blue, whatever, doesn't matter. But then look at the one on the right here. Very clearly marketed to men. What do we see? Right, so it's literally spelled out on the bottle for you. Men. What else? Yeah.
It's 2 in 1, so it's convenient.
Oh, it's 2 in 1. So it's shampoo and conditioner. Because guys,
Like to do it one time.
Yeah, we want to do it one time. We don't want to fuss around with our hair all day. Come on, we're busy. Right? It's 2 in 1. What else is happening here?
Smell ocean.
Yeah, the smell of, it probably smells different, right? It smells like the ocean, or it smells kind of spicy or manly in some way. I don't know how to describe that smell. Yeah, it's a very sort of masculine dark blue. The design of the bottle is very kind of businesslike, right? It's very like, this is shampoo and conditioner. It's for men. The end. It's not very dramatic at all, this bottle, right? It's kind of sophisticated in a way, right?
The flower.
Yeah, there's what?
There's for woman. The flower.
Yeah, the woman's got a flower, whereas men just have a nice simple, it's shampoo and it's conditioner. Let's not make a big deal out of it, right? And look at this thing, this axe thing. So this is kind of a loofah. Like, it has the same function, right? You're supposed to scrub yourself with it when you put on body wash. But have a look at this thing. It looks like a truck tire, right? It's got these big like rubber knobby edges to it, and it looks like a tool, right? It looks like something you would use in the shop, but it's a shower thing. Why can't men just use the fluffy pink thing? Because they don't like it. Why not? They can't use it? I'm using one. But why do they even make this axe thing?
Because man wants it.
Because it's manly.
It's not soft.
It's not soft. It's rugged, just like men. I know. Well, maybe not. I don't know. But no, you're right, right? It's in the shower. Nobody's there with you. Does it matter? In fact, these loofahs are like, does anyone know? They're like $1 or $2 for a loofah, the little pink thing. $1 or $2. This axe thing is probably like $14.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard men products are cheaper.
Often they are, but in this case, not, because this thing is like yeah, it's a whole thing, right? Yeah, which is again part of the reason why I buy the pink fluffy thing, because it's $2. It'll last literally, not forever, but it lasts a long time. Yeah, but so we have products here that are basically the same thing, right? There's something for scrubbing you when you're in the shower, and there's shampoo for your hair. I have a secret theory that in fact the shampoo is exactly the same. They just add a little bit of different like perfume or scent to it, but it's the same thing. I don't know if it is, but human hair is human hair. But these things are marketed very, very differently. And again, it's not an accident, right? It's not a fluke that these things are marketed this way. They're marketed this way because that's what's successful. That's what men and women want to see. They want to see pink, fluffy, flowery, fresh products for women, right? And products that will give them smooth and silky hair, just like in those Pantene commercials or whatever, where the women's hair is like so shiny it looks like it's CGI'd. And then, what do men want to see? Well, men want to see strength, sophistication, simple, right? They don't want to be too fussy about their hair because that's something that women do, right? Women fuss over their hair, men don't, right? It's not manly to be too concerned with your appearance, right? So men have a very simple bottle, it's shampoo, it's conditioner, let's move on, people, right? And again, that's not an accident, right? That's very carefully designed to sort of give men and women what they expect and what they want and what they think they should want. Let me give you another example here. So, you can't really do this anymore. These are ads for cigarettes. You should not smoke. I am not condoning smoking at all.
I hate smoking.
Good, me too. So, here we have 2 cigarette ads from probably the 1980s, I'm guessing. Maybe like 80s or early 90s or so. You can't really do this anymore. There are laws against advertising in certain places for cigarettes, so you won't see much of this for the most part. But in the past, you saw a lot of it. And here we see two brands of cigarettes, Camels and Virginia Slims. And again, you see the same thing. They are marketed either very strongly to men or very strongly to women. And what do you see here? What's going on? Yeah, where a man belongs. Where does a man belong, according to the ad? Yeah, he's sitting there smoking. He's alone, chilling. He's out in nature. What else? He's sitting on a cool vintage motorbike in his leather jacket, looking cool, right? Yeah. All these things are kind of coming through, right? Masculinity as being rugged and strong and solitary and into motorcycles, leather jackets, right? And there he is, smoking his Camel out where a man belongs. Okay, what's going on here with the woman's ad? Very different, right? What's happening here? Can you read the text?
Basically, like, if you put it together, it's like a mini, a micro paragraph.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's read it here. So, according to the theory of evolution, men evolved with fat, stubby fingers, and women evolved with long, slim fingers. Therefore, according to the theory of logic, women should smoke the long, slim cigarette designed just for them. And this is the theory of slimness. It's not a valid argument. Nope. But then it's not really appealing to logic, it's appealing to feelings, subconscious and conscious feelings.
There's no women who used to buy cigarettes. They used to smoke cigarettes to lose weight.
Yeah, so there's the idea that smoking will cause you to lose weight, right? It's an appetite suppressant. And so if you smoke, maybe it can keep you from having that piece of chocolate cake from a few slides earlier, right? Don't smoke. Don't smoke. Why do people smoke, by the way? Why do people smoke? Well, yeah, what benefit? People must smoke because it benefits them somehow. So what benefit are people getting from smoking? Okay, so there could be some there's people around you smoking, so you just kind of sure, if you come from a family where say parents smoke and it's not a big deal, then you might smoke. What? What's what? What's bad? Well, let's start out with what's good. Not what's good, but why do people do it? It's cool, right? Not quite so much nowadays because people are more health conscious. But yeah, if you look at movies in the past, cool characters are always smoking, right? They're just like, they're very, they're framed, the movie or the television show frames them as the cool person, and part of their coolness is smoking, right? So smoking was cool, right? It was seen as cool in the past. Why else might people smoke? Yeah, it might be a coping mechanism, right? So the nicotine in the cigarette does work as a kind of nervous system calming thing, right? So if you're really stressed and you're like, oh God, I gotta, and then you're, oh, okay, I can make it through, right? That's a lot of the reason why people would smoke, right? It was kind of a stress relief. It helped calm them down, right? It was cool, helped calm them down. Why else do people smoke? Yeah, it's an addiction. Turns out that nicotine is a drug, and drugs are addictive. And so, yeah, you can become addicted to smoking cigarettes, either from the kind of pharmacological effect of it, or also the fact that you are really stressed, and then you get used to smoking to calm down, and then you kind of need you need to have a cigarette to calm yourself down. My parents smoked a little bit when I was younger, but they quit pretty early on. My grandparents, my dad's parents, smoked all the time, to the point where that was the first thing that my grandfather did when he got out of bed. So he sat up in bed and he lit a cigarette. Like before he even stood up out of bed, he had a cigarette.
Such a legend.
What's that?
Such a legend.
He's a legend? Not anymore, he's not.
Well, he had his son, you know.
Well, he could have had more time. Could have had more time.
He enjoyed it. Really.
I don't know that he did. Like, I don't know that he did. But, you know, back in the day, people smoked. He probably smoked since he was like 15 or something like that, because people started early. But anyway, so yeah, people smoke for a few reasons, right? Because it's cool, because it calms them down. Turns out it's an addictive substance. But we also know that it's really bad for your health, right? For your lungs, for your genetics, everything. It's full of carcinogens. You almost couldn't do anything worse than smoke cigarettes. They're horrible, absolutely horrible for your health. But what's going on in the woman's ad here? What are they appealing to for women? Shape, right? Women, there's a lot of attention paid and pressure put on women to look a certain way, particularly to look slim. And so not only will these cigarettes help achieve that, but they're almost promising that, aren't they? Not explicitly, but implicitly, right? Everybody already knows that smoking can help you lose weight. And so Virginia Slims here is kind of saying, they're kind of winking at you, right? They're saying, hey, the theory of slimness, wink, wink. If you smoke these, you'll be slim too. Wink, wink, right? What else is happening here? What other messages are in this? The what? Yeah, so there's, and I'm not even sure that that's true, but the men's cigarettes definitely look stronger, right? Look at the package, right? The Camel package is this very kind of vintagey, you know, it almost looks like something that would come out of World War II sort of thing, which it probably did. Like they probably kept the design of the package because it's old and vintage and something like that. But look at the package for Virginia Slims, right? Much more elegant, you know, some shiny gold or some shiny kind of greenish metal color, right? Classy for the time. Classy, right? So the men's cigarettes are meant to look rugged. The women's cigarettes are meant to look elegant. And the cigarettes are even longer and slimmer, right? So even when you're smoking them, they look slimmer. And maybe hopefully you do too, or at least that's what they're promising. Anything else that you're seeing here? In the woman's or the man's? The women's ad's kind of taking a bit of a shot at men, aren't they? With our short, stubby fingers. Like, my fingers are just fine, thank you very much. But yeah, so they're taking a little poke at men too, right? They're like, oh, men are so unsophisticated. It's us women who are really the sophisticated ones.
How elegant the cigarettes look.
Well, and the model looks similarly elegant, does she not? Yeah, so I know, you know, the fashion's probably a bit off because it's, you know, the dress is 30 years old, but yeah, she looks like she's ready to go out to a very classy party, right? This fancy party dress. She's got all of her jewelry on and her, you know, classy pumps. She's ready for a night on the town, right? Looking very elegant. Her hair's all done, earrings, makeup, the whole thing, right? Whereas look at this scrungy guy here sitting on the back of his motorcycle. Ugh, gross, right? Anyway, very different messages, right? Do you think the tobacco in these two cigarettes is much different? No, it's probably the same thing. Maybe.
Like, the left one is heavier and has more nicotine.
The other one is longer, so then it has more than the same thing.
No. It's a slim. Come on, the slim should have less
Slim and
nicotine.
long.
But it's long.
Come on, it doesn't make sense. I
Why?
go
Why?
find it and do a research about it and show
No,
to you.
silly. The only
Don't
reason
make-
you think that it's strong is because it's a
No
man.
problem, don't believe me. I make a research and show it to you.
Make an argument. It's very interesting. It's very interesting, and you know, Cheyenne, I'm not saying you're wrong, and I'm not saying you're right, Nasra, but it's very interesting that we're having this argument because I'm not sure that we really know for sure, but we definitely have the idea that the camels are stronger than the Virginia Slims. Whether they are or not, I don't know. I
But this
suspect.
one is men and women though.
Yeah.
That's all.
Because the ads are doing their job, right? The ads are appealing. They know what your stereotypes are. They know what ideas you have under the surface, and they're showing you. They're pressing that button. They're like, and so yeah, you're getting this idea that, you know, would you say, you know, that the men's shampoo is more powerful than the woman's shampoo?
No.
It,
The
oh,
Virginia Slims
but is it?
is 2.
But
The
is
Cali
it?
is 9.
okay. Let me talk about. I have one more thing to say about the cigarettes, and then I'll give you a break. Okay. Now, we have these 2 brands of cigarettes. Now, for the sake of argument, let's say that they are more or less the same. Okay. Cigarettes are they're a little bit different, but let's say, for the sake of argument here, they're the same, but they're in different packages, and one is kind of longer and slimmer than the other. Same thing, though. Now, do you think that some women, might choose to smoke Camels?
Yes.
Think so? Okay. Do you think that some men would choose to smoke Virginia Slims?
Yes. No. In other cases,
What's that?
in other cases,
It does look pretty classy. But why would you say yes for one and no for the other?
Like not Virginia Slims, but Philip Morris, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's just stick with these 2 here for those of us who are not familiar with tobacco manufacturers. Why would women smoke the men's cigarettes but not the other way around?
With men, they want to be like girly.
Men don't want to be girly?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Why not?
They don't want to be associated with cancer, toxic masculinity.
Okay.
They don't want to be associated with ladies. But like girls, us, it's fine because there's nobody to do that.
Yeah. Why is that? Why can you do that? Why are you not afraid of being associated with men?
it's like the football.
It's like the football thing? What do you mean?
The cheerleaders playing the football.
Oh. Nice.
What? I don't know the rest of
But- Okay. Can you explain it?
It's from a week ago,
A week ago?
maybe? Or a few weeks ago.
A month ago? Okay. Yeah, remember in class when we talked about the football game? And we said that in the football game, sometimes men and women switch roles, and the women play really hard. They play a good game of football, but the men don't cheerlead seriously. They goof around. Same thing's happening here, right? Why do men not want to smoke women's cigarettes, but women don't mind? Well, it's because there's a power differential here. Men are the dominant group, right? Men are the ones who have more status and power in society. Men are the ones who get to say what is cool. And so people in the minoritized group can borrow things from the dominant group, and it gives them more status, right? It helps them seem cooler. And you see this in movies all the time, right? You know when the movie introduces you to this really badass female character, and she's sitting there in a leather jacket, and she's like smoking, or she's like downing whiskey. Those are all masculine things, but does she look like a badass because of it? I'm trying to think of someone who's kind of like this. Who's a really tough female character? I think Jessica Jones. Does anyone watch Jessica Jones? She's interesting because she is very strong, but she's also very feminine as well. Anyway, okay, I can't think of anyone right now. But women can do this. They can borrow things from the world of men, and it can make them seem tougher or cooler or more
Is that
badass.
animated? I just saw it.
What's that?
It was looking at-
No, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's really.
I've heard that. It's on the list. It's on my list. But the minoritized group cannot, or the dominant group doesn't borrow from the minoritized group because it actually is a loss of status, right? So, again, does anyone know who Janelle Monáe is? Yeah? So, Janelle, a number of years ago, her kind of signature look was wearing a tuxedo. And did she look badass or what? She looked awesome, right? She was so cool, right? And because again, she borrowed something from the world of men and she kind of made it her own, and it really worked. It really made her seem cool. She's cool on her own, but really made her seem cool. Do you know who Billy Porter is? Billy Porter?
The dress?
Yeah, the dress, right? So Billy Porter is a man who has his fashion is very forward, or I'm not even sure where it's coming from. It's very distinctive, but on a couple of occasions, he's actually worn a dress to these award shows. And so he'll have like a tuxedo jacket kind of thing up top, and then he'll have like a giant skirt, right? And again, it's fabulous. It's quite something to see. But for most people, not all people, but for most people, it doesn't make him look that cool. Some people it does. But Janelle Monáe's look looks more cool to more people because she's borrowing from the dominant group. Billy Porter is borrowing from the minoritized group, and so it's his cool factor is kind of different, although we could probably agree that he looks cool too. Especially that hat with he's got like a garage door opener on his hat. It's really cool. But watching kind of what products are kind of marketed to what group and who gets to borrow from whom does kind of tell us a little bit about the power differential in society. And so again, yeah, women will borrow things from the world of men if they want to look tough and cool, right? Whether it's whiskey or smoking or leather jackets or whatever it is, women who are kind of manly in some certain ways, they're cooler, right? At least in the movies. But women who are more feminine are often not seen as cool, right? Often in movies it's kind of more of a joke, right? It's more of a punchline that, oh, this guy is so girly, and that's played up for laughs. But when a woman borrows something from the world of men, it's not used for humor. It's used to establish that this chick is tough. You don't mess with her, right? It's a very different thing, even though you're just borrowing from one world to the other, but the effect is quite different. And the effect is different because of that power relationship. That's what makes it different. Okay, let's take a little break. We've been working hard for a while. Come back in 10 minutes and we'll talk about, I think we'll talk about movies. All right, so we're back. So as I was trying to suggest to you or demonstrate to you is that the products that we buy, the products that we consume, the products that are advertised to us have a lot to do with kind of gender roles and social values and messages and beliefs. And again, we're exposed to those from the very beginning, right? As soon as we are old enough to have any conception of what's going on around us, we are starting to absorb gender-based messages, right? And so we see that in the toys that we often play with, either the ones that our parents buy for us or the ones that we actually want. Because again, kids know their gender quite young, right? And they know what their gender is, and they also know what kids that are their gender like to do. They see it on TV, they see it in their friends, and they mimic it, right? They copy it. And so kids start to play with these things and want to play with them, and that extends all the way through our lives. And so even more adult products like food, even the purchase of food is gendered, and some food is marketed specifically to women, some food is marketed specifically to men, even though of course everybody eats yogurt, it's not a thing, but still we market them that way. And cigarettes are the same thing, right? Cigarettes are marketed specifically to men or women, even though both men or women might smoke them, or at least they used to be marketed, not anymore. And the way that sort of people borrow from either the world of men or the world of women has a lot to do with power dynamics. And so minoritized groups can borrow from the dominant group and gain some status and prestige, but the dominant groups usually don't borrow from the minoritized group because the opposite kind of happens. One of the things I want to point out to you here is the use of stereotype, and I was kind of pushing you in that direction when we were talking because, again, it's very intuitive that yes, everybody eats chocolate cake, everybody likes chocolate cake. Where's the stereotype? But I was using the stereotype because it is important in the way we are communicated to through media. Okay, and you can kind of see that. You can kind of see that happening in. Sorry, I'm just going to jump through this here. You can kind of see that happening in films. Sorry, I'm just going to go back one. Particularly with stereotypical types of characters and stereotypical plots. Okay, and so here are a bunch of kind of very stereotypical characters that we see in movie or in television or in animated television today. Okay, so who's seen the absent-minded professor character before? This is Doc Brown from Back to the Future, but other absent-minded professors? Anybody watch Rick and Morty? Yeah. So on Rick and Morty, we have another similarly absent-minded professor, right? He's kind of old, he's kind of a little strange and bizarre and quirky, but he's also a genius because he's invented these cool and crazy things, right? And so there's lots of examples of the absent-minded professor. It's Rick, right? Rick and Morty, he's an example. Doc Brown is. There's lots of other ones. The angry black woman, she's a very common stereotypical character or stock character in movies. Usually she doesn't have that much of a role. She just kind of like brings the sass, right? She moves her head like this. She's like, oh no, he didn't, right? That's kind of what she does. But that's kind of all there is to her, right? But she's a very flat kind of character. The bad boy, right? We all love the bad, well, not we all, but us girls, we all love the bad boy, right? He's kind of a bit of an outsider. He's kind of a loner. He's got tattoos and cool. If only someone could tame him, right? But he's a very common character, right? If you ever seen James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause from 1964 or something like that, James Dean is kind of the original bad boy, and lots of other bad boys are kind of, copies of what James Dean did. But he shows up in all kinds of movies and all kinds of television shows. Yeah. the anti-hero, right? Very common today. The guy who's actually the good guy, but the way he goes about things is not the greatest, right? Deadpool kind of takes this to an extreme. He's a good guy, but a lot of the stuff he does is pretty awful. but still, he's the hero, right? Who else? The crazy cat lady. She shows up a lot. The elderly martial arts master. Can you think of anyone who fits into this stereotypical mold? Yoda. Yeah. From Star Wars, Yoda is the elderly martial arts master. Here's Mr. Miyagi from the 80s movie, The Karate Kid. Who else? Elderly martial arts master. Who else is there? Other characters like that. Yoda is one. Who? Jackie Chan is a martial arts master, but he's not an elderly one. But if he has a teacher, then the teacher probably will fit into that category. Kung Fu Panda? Yeah, Kung Fu Panda as the elderly martial arts master as well. The damsel in distress, right? The woman, the female character who just exists so that the man can save her. Oh, save me, brave whoever, right? You've seen the damsel in distress? Yeah. She has no agency, usually. She has no ability to save herself. The man must come in and save her, right? The hot shot, right? The guy who's usually a guy who's like really good at what he does and he's all cocky and arrogant. Here's the classic 80s movie Top Gun, which of course is getting a sequel if it ever comes out. There's also a number of kind of more general stock characters here as well. The jock, we saw lots of jocks in Mean Girls, right? The villain, right? The villain is stereotypical in that they're often kind of dark or disfigured or, you know, right? There's all these stereotypes about what villains are like. The nerdy guys or nerdy people are stereotypes. Do you know what the red shirt thing is about? Nope. It's a bit of a cultural joke. What you're seeing here is a picture from the original Star Trek television series back in the 60s. And so on Star Trek, you guys are familiar with Star Trek a little bit? On the original Star Trek, the color of your shirt had to do with your rank in Starfleet. So the captain wears kind of a gold shirt, and then the sort of commanding officers, you know, like Mr. Spock and things like that, they wear blue shirts, and then kind of the regular crewmen wear red. So you always know what rank people are. But of course, you know, on the television series when, you know, Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock would beam down to an alien planet to explore, you know, they would go down, but they'd always go down with a guy in a red shirt. And you pretty much knew if anyone was going to get killed, it was the guy in the red shirt, because you never saw him before, right, on the show, and you'd never see him again. And so you knew when they beamed down to this, you know, dangerous planet to explore, you're like, oh, that guy's not coming back. So the red shirt is kind of the disposable character, the character who's going to die. The noble savage is another one, the idea that indigenous people are like innocent, childlike, you know, in communication with nature, and they're so innocent, and that kind of idea is often associated with indigenous people, and here Pocahontas is kind of a little bit of that. But I'll talk about that. One of the reasons that these get used, and one of the reasons that they kind of perpetuate stereotypes and sexist ideas, is I think because of maybe laziness, but also because of time, right? Because if you think of a movie, there's only so much time to tell the story. And you have to have the audience understand the plot and the setting and some of the characters kind of very quickly so that you can move on to the story, right? So think about Damien from Mean Girls, right? Damien's a very flat character. He's very stereotypically gay in some of the ways that we associate with gayness. But that's kind of it, right? And so the minute we meet him, remember when we Remember, girls? We meet Damien in the classroom, Nasra and Sophie. We meet Damien in the classroom, and he like grabs Katie's hair, and he's like, "Do you think this hair would look good on me, or this color would look good on me?" And so within like 15 seconds, we kind of know all we need to know about Damien, right? He's a guy, he's a gay guy, he's kind of obsessed with his look kind of thing, and he's there for comic relief. And that's kind of all there is to Damien, right? And so, again, it's not really Damien's story, right? The story is really about Katie and Regina and the other girls, but he's very stereotypical so that we understand him quickly, because we don't have time to explore the depth of Damien's character, right? So he's very stereotypical, we understand him in seconds, and then we can kind of move on with the story. So it's kind of a storytelling device, right? It allows the audience to get kind of caught up on the story really quickly, but it also perpetuates stereotypes, right? In this case, stereotypes of gayness, because Damien is kind of gay in all of the stereotypical ways that we think of gay people. Okay, so I can see we're out of time here. That is it. We'll press pause on this. Tomorrow's the quiz. Study hard. Good luck. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 if you're in class, and if you're online, I'll see you at 8. That is all. Have a nice evening or rest of the afternoon, and I'll see you tomorrow.